Spoilers. I've just seen the last episode of The Big Bang Theory. Now, let me just explain. I've liked The Big Bang Theory since maybe series 2 or 3. I didn't particularly like it at the very, very beginning. I was quite heavily into 2.5 Men, and the two kind of overlapped a little bit, and I was in the middle of watching 2.5 Men when Big Bang Theory started, and I would casually just sort of look at some of the earlier episodes and think to myself, meh, you know, it's a group of nerds, you know, who just faff about with time machines and things like that. Not really my thing. Then I started very slowly, I found that I would be watching more episodes of Big Bang than 2.5 Men. So I started thinking to myself, maybe this has something. And then 10 years later, I was completely hooked. I've been watching Big Bang Theory religiously for the past 10 years. I've collected a few Sheldon t-shirts, and yes, it's certainly been it certainly has been a very entertaining show with some very powerful messages to scientists and people who aren't scientists, people who have difficulty, you know, getting through life, and you know, for women in the field and that sort of thing. It's been very influential, and it hasn't suffered the same fate that Friends suffered. I've made this point to people before. Friends I used to like, but now I look back at Friends and I think to myself, what are you doing? What are you doing? Friends made the mistake of staying on the air too long. This is my opinion, obviously, but I think that Friends should have stopped way before it did. It ran out of steam. Friends ran out of steam. Friends should have ended somewhere around series 4 or 5, because after series 4 or 5, it just went vroom, and it just got ridiculous. It got so silly, and Big Bang didn't make that mistake. I think Big Bang left when it had to, and I think now is a good time to do it, because I've noticed only in this last series, I've been watching and I've been thinking to myself, yeah, it's very slowly starting to come down. There's not much else they can do now. So I think they made the correct choice here, and because I feel if they continued on, then we would slowly start to, you know, lose interest in it. So I think this series was a good series to end, because it's been good. It's been a good series, you know, but it hasn't been as good as it has been in the past, I don't think. So, because in the past series there have been episodes where I would just be in hysterics, just complete hysterics, you know. But you know, the last 1 or 2 years, slowly starting to come down. So yeah, so it's been great. It's been great. The past 12 years, you know, they've done some good, you know, they've done some good storylines. The first 1, 2, 3 series was about, you know, just familiarising ourselves with the main characters, with Sheldon and Leonard and Raj and Howard and Penny, and then of course they brought in Amy, a fantastic character. They made her basically like a female Sheldon to begin with, and then as she's gone on, you know, the years have gone on, they've made her a bit more of her own kind of character, and she's changed quite a lot for the better over the years. Then they brought in Bernadette. Again, interesting character. I've always had kind of a 50-50 thing. Nothing at all against the actress who plays her. The character, she's had her ups and downs. The ups have been good, you know. But you know, it was nice, you know, that Howard, you know, could find someone and get married and have kids and all that. So that's been fine. You know, they've been the odd couple of the series, so to speak. Leonard and Penny, of course, I think Leonard and Penny's relationship has been interesting because they haven't done this ridiculous friends, you know, Ross and Rachel thing. That got completely ridiculous. That was absurd in the end. Ross and Rachel, they get together, they break up, they get together, they break up, they get together, they break up, they accidentally get married in Vegas. You know, they don't want to be married, so they get divorced. Then Rachel has a baby. Oh, I wonder who the father could be. Come on. You know, it's Ross. We all knew it was Ross. There wasn't a cliffhanger there, guys. They tried to make it a cliffhanger. Who could the father of Rachel's baby be? It's Ross! You know, that really pissed me off. So they didn't do that with Leonard and Penny, though, thankfully. They had Leonard and Penny meet. They had Leonard and Penny very slowly get together. They got together. Then they broke up, okay. But then when they got back together again, it wasn't just, you know, getting back together. They did this sort of beta test, which was very clever. They did this beta testing, which is exactly, that fit perfectly with the Big Bang Theory, you know, story. That's what would happen with someone like Leonard. They would want to try it out and they would want to beta test their relationship. So they did, and they very slowly got back together again, and then they stayed together. That was it. They didn't break up again after that. You know, perfect. You know, and then they slowly, you know, fell in love again, and then they very slowly built up to Penny admitting that she loved Leonard, which was a long time thing to occur. It was so brilliantly done. The Leonard and Penny relationship was brilliant. You know, they did that perfectly. And then they got married, and they, you know, and they got married in the way that they needed to. It wasn't this huge, you know, elaborate wedding, because they'd had one of those before with Howard and Bernadette. So that was fine. And they did it again with Sheldon and Amy. Again, that was a relationship that worked beautifully because it worked, you know, to Sheldon's standards, which it had to. It couldn't just be, you know, him falling in love and getting married, because he doesn't do that. It had to very slowly progress in a way that he was comfortable with, and it did beautifully. So it's all worked. It's all worked perfectly. It's been great writing. It's been, you know, great performances. You know, it has just worked perfectly. And I think it's been one of the best. I think it's been one of the best American sitcoms that we've had in a long while. It's better than Friends, in my opinion. It's just been very cleverly done, very beautifully done. One thing, and I know I'm not the only one who had this little nitpick of a problem, because I've looked at Twitter and social media, and I know there are others out there who agree with this. The way that they did the eating of food. Come on, guys, you can do better than that. You can do better than that. Whenever they needed to sit down and have food, I dare you to go back, watch the entire 12-year run, and count the number of times that someone actually takes a bite of food. I bet you there aren't that many times. Because all they do is sit there and poke their food with a fork. Guys, no. I know why that happens, okay? I know, it's a television program, okay? In television programs, there are many takes. I get it. Not every take can be perfect. So they have to be careful with food, because if they eat their food and then they have to do a different take, they're going to have to reset the plate, and there's going to be all the food gone, etc. But what's wrong with that? I've seen television programs, sitcoms, dramas, all kinds of television programs, not just American, English programs as well, and other programs, where there are people who genuinely sit down for a meal scene and they genuinely eat properly. And they eat and they eat and they talk and they deliver a line and then they eat some more. And okay, so maybe they had to do that 3 or 4 times, maybe more. Maybe it's difficult. I get it. But guys, it's realistic. It's realistic, and that's what acting's about. It has to be realistic. And I think that's how it should be done. So the Big Bang Theory never got that right. Never got that right. I'm sorry, but you never got that right. When you do a food scene, you do it properly. You do it properly. You sit down and you eat. I appreciate it's a difficult thing to do, but I genuinely think it's worth doing. Realism, guys, realism. So that's the one, I think that's the one big thing they never got right, the eating. They would sit down, usually around the coffee table, as they did with Sheldon in his spot, etc. And they would sit with their Chinese food or their salads. It's always salads too. Have you noticed that? Always salad. Always. And they would just poke at it. Maybe nudge a tomato to one side of the plate, nudge it back the other way, talk. Maybe occasionally get up and get a bottle of smart water from the fridge. Notice that? They do that a lot as well. And then, and then occasionally, someone takes a genuine bite. Maybe takes one sprig of broccoli and puts it in their mouth. So that was the only real problem that I had with it. Not that it's a huge problem, I know, but as I say, I know that I'm not the only one that has that little problem. Other than that, though, this show was spot on. Okay, now let's get to the final episode. It was all right. It was all right. As I say, this series, I've noticed that it's just slowly starting to come down. I was expecting and I was hoping for something a bit bigger, a bit more of a big bang to go out with. I didn't think this was the best episode. It was underwhelming. It was fine. It had a lovely little moment at the end there when, as I say, spoilers here. It had a lovely little moment at the Nobel Awards where Sheldon asks all of them to stand up, and he acknowledges every single one of them, including Howard, and we all know that Sheldon and Howard have had a very rocky relationship out of all of them, and has never really acknowledged that Howard's job is a good one. But even in this moment, Sheldon acknowledges. He says this astronaut Howard Wolowitz, and gives him a bravo moment, and they all applaud. So it's a night. He says I love you, and he says I love you to Amy, and he does. It's all very nice. But the story arc of it was a double bill. It was an hour. It was 2 episodes, but it was combined into 1 hour. But in that 1 hour, lots of things were kind of smushed together very quickly, which didn't really. The build-up of this last episode in this series has been very unusual, because Sheldon and Amy have had this Nobel Prize thing, building up over this series. They've had these 2 losers. Sean Astin, I think, was one of them, and I've forgotten the name of the other actor. But they've had these 2 loser scientists try to make the claim that they discovered this science thing before Sheldon and Amy did, and there's been this huge dispute and arguments, etc. And it's been going on way too long, it seemed. And we were about 3 or 4 episodes from the finale, and I was thinking to myself, how are we going to build up to something here? Because this just seems to be going on for too long. We've only got 3 episodes left, guys. Wrap it up, And they did about an episode or 2 back. And I thought to myself, right. And I thought, sorry, my phone just beeped. And I thought to myself, I thought to myself, when are we going to get to the end of this? You know, because there's so much to wrap up here. And they finally did wrap it up, and, you know, then in the last 2 episodes it was, you know, oh, Penny's finally pregnant. Okay. You know, they kind of gloss over that a little bit. I mean, there is a quick kind of argument about why didn't you tell anyone, blah, blah, blah. But that didn't go too far, it didn't seem anyway. It just showed Penny throwing up a lot, eating a lot, throwing up a lot. Yes, I'm pregnant now. This is what pregnant women do. We eat a lot, we throw up a lot, apparently. And that was kind of it. And there's never, you know, of course, you know, I know earlier on in the series, I think it was this series or maybe it was last series, where Leonard and Penny had this kind of a little bit of a falling out because Penny claimed that she didn't want to have children. And then there was this thing about Leonard being a surrogate father, or is that how you say it? Surrogate, a donor, or to Zach, Penny's stupid ex-boyfriend. And then that didn't come to anything. And then, by the way, as soon as that storyline finished, I thought to myself, Penny's going to be pregnant by the end of the series. I just kind of thought that, and so I wasn't really surprised when, you know, she announced that she was pregnant. But then, so suddenly Penny does want to have children now. Okay. You know, so there's that. And then, you know, then there was this, you know, thing about Howard and Bernie being away from the kids. By the way, it was nice to see Michael and Hallie for the first time. We do actually get to see the 2 kids in this episode, which I found was kind of sweet. It was very brief, but it was very sweet to actually properly see Howard and Bernadette's extended family, because we never did. I understand why we never saw his mother, because that was part of the comic. That was part of the comedy. We just heard her voice, which I understood. But, you know, it was nice to finally see an extension of the family, you know, properly this time. But suddenly, you know, and then it was all this build-up about Sheldon being selfish and, you know, not congratulating Leonard and Penny on the pregnancy and not acknowledging the fact that Howard and Bernadette were scared about being away from the kids for the first time. And it was all about me. I'm accepting a Nobel Prize and blah, 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 blah. So there was this falling out, this brief falling out. Guys, it's Sheldon. You know, you should, you know, this is something that's always bothered me a little bit, is the fact that whenever Sheldon does this over 12 years, they always act so surprised. And they always like say, I can't believe you're like this, Sheldon, you're a jerk. You know, blah, 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 and they fall out. Guys, it's Sheldon. You know, he does this. You should be used to it by now. I know that he can be a selfish jerk, but he's Sheldon. You know, you understand why he is. You understand that he doesn't mean anything by it. It's just him. You understand that he loves you because it's been acknowledged before in the past, you know. So why do they always act so surprised when this happens? And they always act like it's the first time, like they weren't expecting it to happen. Guys, come on. So anyway, they had this falling out, you know, go to hell with you and your Nobel Prize, I'm going home too. So I'm thinking to myself, oh, there's going to be this huge build-up, they're going to go home and Sheldon's going to realise that friendship is more important than the Nobel Prize, and he's going to go home too and say, to hell with the Nobel Prize, I love you guys. And I thought that was where it was going to end. That would have been a perfect ending. That would have fit so well. The guys go home because they're mad at Sheldon, and Sheldon realises that friendship's more important than the Nobel Prize, and he goes home too. He decides to sacrifice his Nobel Prize for his friends. That would have been perfect. We all know that in 12 years, he's talked about, you know, wanting to win a Nobel Prize and how much it means to him. All his life he's been pursuing it. And he finally realises that the friends are more important than the Nobel Prize. So he goes home. And he says, guys, I love you all. You're the most important thing to me. And they have a huge hug at the end in the living room. And then they sit down and they have takeaway. And that's when it ends. With the Big Bang Theory song playing. Perfect. But no. No. That's not how it ends. The next scene, I think literally, well, I'm not sure if it's literally the next scene, but in the next couple of scenes, suddenly it's all, let's just forgive him. We were going to go home, but now Howard and Bernadette suddenly stop being scared about the kids. Okay. Leonard and Penny decide to just forgive him. Okay. Raj gets a date from Sarah Michelle Gellar. Okay. I've nothing against Sarah Michelle Gellar. I was a huge fan of Buffy the Vampire Slayer. I literally own every single episode of Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Seriously, that's no joke. But I was just like, okay. They meet on the plane, apparently, because she's asleep or something. Next thing, she's going on a date with Raj. By the way, what the hell happened to Raj and Anu? I thought that was a perfect relationship. Then suddenly they broke up. Okay. You know, so there's been a lot of, you know, sort of moments to me. But anyway, Sarah Michelle Gellar is there with Raj. Okay. And then they're just suddenly there. And as I said, it's a sweet moment where Sheldon acknowledges their friendship and, you know, thanks them all and gets them to stand up and there's an applause and everything. Fine. And then, but it's very quick, and then suddenly the next scene is the last scene where they're suddenly back back at home in the apartment, sitting around the table, poking at their food like they do. And then this guitar playing, you know, the Big Bang Theory song. And then it ends. And I'm thinking to myself, oh, okay. You know, okay. I just thought, you know, as I say, it's very sweet and it's very modest. It's a very modest ending. I was just hoping, I didn't dislike it. I just thought maybe there should have been something bigger. There should have been a bigger bang there. It's been 12 years. It's been a brilliant series. Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Everything has worked. Everything. The way it's been written, the way it's been performed, the actors are amazing. You know, Jim Parsons is just incredible, an incredible actor. As are the others. I've seen them all in other things. Some have been okay, some not so much. But, you know, there's nothing wrong with, you know, with any of the actors at all. They've done a great job, all of them. They've been suited for their roles. They've been perfectly cast. You know, and it's all been great, but then they just wrap it up with a very underwhelming series and a very underwhelming ending. And I'm glad that, as I say, I'm glad that they stopped here rather than continue, because this was the series that really showed that it was slowly starting to run out of steam. It hadn't run out of steam, but I think it was showing that it had started to. So they made the right decision. Friends made the mistake of continuing and it ran out of steam, and by the end it was just boring, in my opinion. But Big Bang, it wasn't boring. It was never boring. But they did the right thing, and yeah, it was okay. It was nice. I just wish that they'd done a bit more. I wish they'd done a bit more with Leonard and Penny's pregnancy. I wish they'd done a bit more with Sheldon acknowledging that friendship is more important than a Nobel Prize, or more important than most things, or everything. You know, it's more important than a lot of things. I wish that Sheldon's gesture could have been bigger. I think that could have been the bigger bang here, when Sheldon could have realised that his friends were the most important thing. And if he had, you know, as I say, they should have all fallen out with him and gone back home, I think. And and they've gone back home and they're thinking to themselves, did we do the right thing? You know, did we abandon him? Maybe we should have stuck it out. Let's go back, or something like that. And then he bursts through the door or something and he says, to hell with the Nobel Prize, you guys are my friends and you're the most important thing. Big bear hug, and it ends. I think that would have been the big bang, you know, to finish the series off. It was fine. There was nothing so much wrong with it. I was just it just could have been a bigger bang at the end there. For 12 years, for 12 very, very good years, it could have been bigger. It could have been better. It was fine, but it just kind of made me go, okay, you know, okay, fine. Instead of making me go, wow, amazing, which is what I was hoping for. So yeah, I have loved The Big Bang Theory, and I'm sorry that it's gone, but as I say, I think it's a good decision before it gets dull. I will continue to watch them because they're always shown on television, and I'll probably buy. I'm not sure if I'll buy all of them, but I'll maybe pick up a DVD here and there as I see them. And I'll continue to wear the t-shirts, Sheldon's t-shirts, with pride, and I shall continue to have a connection with Sheldon because he and I, in some respects, are similar. I have Asperger's syndrome, so there are certainly things that I can relate to with Sheldon, awkwardness and social anxiety and that sort of thing. So yeah, I'm always going to have that with Sheldon, and I'll always feel that with Sheldon. He'll always be something of a friend to me. So yeah, Big Bang Theory. You've been interesting. You've been funny. You've been influential. You've been inspiring. You've been good. It's been a good 12 years, and I wish that the ending could have been bigger and better, but well, maybe in some way you might return. Who knows? They've been talking about doing a Friends film. Hopefully they won't do it. But Big Bang Theory movie? Who knows? Well, thank you guys, and